Hello, everyone. My name is Jay Walter, and this is Rebuilding. Today's quote is from Stephen Covey. Every human has four endowments: self-awareness, conscience, independent will, and creative imagination. These give us the ultimate human freedom, the power to choose, to respond, to change. So my guest today is a good friend of mine, Randy Scott. And let me tell you a little bit about his background, at least what he shared with me. Randy Scott is an author, speaker, mentor, and founder of Zenpowerment. With a degree in marketing, Randy spent a 25-year corporate career in international sales and marketing while living in the U.S., Europe, and Asia. After nearly dying in a motorcycle accident at the age of 33, he realized that he had a second chance to live, so went in search of what really matters in life. His passion for the fusion of science and spirituality led him to compile the principles and tools of Zenpowerment. He's found a way to enjoy more peace, power, and purpose in life, as well as discover authenticity by uncovering who we are not in order to find out who we really are. So welcome, Randy.
Thank you, Jay.
Appreciate you coming and talking to us today.
It's a pleasure.
So let's start out. Tell me a little bit about Randy Scott. What makes you tick?
You know, if you would have asked me that before I was 33, it was all the standard answers you'd get, as far as be successful, do this with your family, have the big house, big car. And if you ask me today, it's serving others. It's helping lift the vibration of this planet by helping people discover their own magnificence.
Wow, yeah. And I see that in you when I talk to you outside of the radio station. That's why I wanted to get in and talk to you. So you had this motorcycle accident 33 years ago. I imagine that's kind of an obstacle you've had to overcome, or immediately then you had to overcome. What was the impetus? What pushed you to make these changes? What to make changes in your life?
Yeah, it's a great question. Growing up, for some reason in the back of my head, I thought I was going to die when I was 33. And so I had this mental set, that was going to happen. And when I was younger, it would pop up every once in a while. And when I was a teenager, every once in a while. But it wasn't until I was 22, I came home from a mission, I got married, and I was 22, and I thought, I've got 11 years left to live. And that's when it really hit me. And so I created this bucket list of things that I wanted to accomplish. And so I wanted to travel around the world. I wanted to live in different countries. I wanted to go skydiving, scuba diving, buy an airplane. And so I had this bucket list. And I did all those things. I lived in Europe, I lived in Asia, bought an airplane. And then when I was 33, I had a motorcycle and I was coming down the canyon and wiped out. And I still to this day do not know what happened, but somebody found my bike and I was about 40 feet up the mountain, and but I didn't die. And you would think that I would be relieved.
Yeah.
But what really happened is I went into this huge funk of depression because I was ready, and I wasn't afraid of dying because I had prepped for it. And so I went through this bout of depression. I left a job that I had been at for 12 years. I got divorced. I left the church, started drinking. I just went into this hole.
Wow.
And I did that for about 2 years. And then I thought, okay, this is like my chance, life number 2. What would I do? And so I basically threw everything I knew away and said, what would I do if I could start over? And since I love science, philosophy, spirituality, the fusion of those things, that's where I jumped in. And I started life hacking. It's like the way to really gain knowledge is to experience it. And so I started life hacking and, studied all kinds of philosophies, all kinds of science, neuroscience, quantum physics, all that kind. And then I found really what worked for me.
Yeah. Okay. That's what we all need to do, is really find what drives us. I think that sometimes you need to just put away that thing you had, that picture you had, that mental map you had. You talk about mental maps of who you think you should be, and really discover who you are.
Yeah, it's amazing how much programming that we have that we just don't recognize, we don't realize.
Right.
You know, they say that between ages 0 and 7, like 80% of your mental subconscious programming is in place. And a lot of the programming that doesn't serve comes from our fears. And so when you recognize that, then you're able to put those things aside.
Right. So when you were going through this funk, before you really started to rebuild your life, did you feel like maybe you were the only person that had ever felt that way? Is that kind of what that, or kind of lead me through this going from depression and a deep funk to saying, I'm still here. I need to make this change. What was the mindset that took you through that?
Totally. It's a great question, Jay. One of the things that I've realized, because especially since I've created Zenpowerment, I've worked with a lot of people through depression and suicide and things like that. And that's where I was, I went through some suicidal thoughts. I was in that funk. And at that time, for anybody, you are not thinking about anybody else.
Yeah.
It's not about anybody else. This is about you.
Right.
When you're in that state, it's like nobody understands me. Nobody gets it. Nobody, and you have this huge disconnection. And so at the time, I thought, no one has ever been down this. But as we go through those challenges and those things, it's like, it's so much more common than we realize.
Yeah.
So much more common.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking the same thing that came to my mind. There was a time about 30 some odd years ago in my life that I was driving home from work, or I'd be driving home, I'd gone back to school, and I was just so tired, and it felt like everything was against me. And bridge abutments on the freeway sure looked inviting some nights. And so, that I kind of feel, and I thought, oh, I'm the only one that has this bad marriage and hard time with kids and working all these hours and going to school, and really the same kind of thing. It's like, oh, wait a minute. I've talked to other people. They've had issues. Maybe I'm not the only one. Maybe I just need to go through and figure out which way to help my kids and to help my wife and get done with school, and that's going to help a lot. But it's amazing how that mind shift really does move you forward.
It does. The thing that I've seen, especially like working with teens and suicide, is it really comes down to one of two things. It's either hope or despair. And one of those things is driving you. And if you're in a bad place, it's this despair. It's this lack of hope. Once you can figure out, how do I turn on that hope? Then you start to see the light and you start to pull yourself out of that. But it's so easy to get into that downward spiral.
Yeah. So you talk about going in this wide range of knowledge you wanted to gain. What is it? Just these things always interested you? What pushed you towards this wide, the amount of things that you were looking at?
Yeah. So when I was about 13, I started practicing martial arts. I was doing Taekwondo. And the thing that I really loved about martial arts was the mental aspect, right? So there was the meditation aspect, and then there was the things like being able to break bricks and things like that, where it's mind over matter. And it was like, this is so cool.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where I got into that. And then I've always resonated with a lot of the Eastern philosophies, like Buddhism and Taoism and Hinduism and those type of things, because they really, if you look at all philosophies and religions and things like that, there's a common set of principles that they all espouse.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where I started. It's like, what is everybody saying that resonates with me?
Okay. And so as you move towards your development of the Zenpowerment, what finally broke you through? What made you make the decision to finally move forward towards that goal?
Yeah. So, I stayed I stayed in corporate, international sales and marketing, because by nature I love to teach, and marketing is teaching. And so I love to teach, and I love technology. And so I stayed in that arena until my last corporate job. And I was a VP of marketing, and the company had actually taken in funding. And one of the requirements of taking in the funding is that the executive team had to have an executive coach. And so I had this executive coach, and he was really helpful, and he was doing an amazing job, really good man. And the thing that I realized is I could do that, but I could do it better. And then it was like the Zenpowerment stuff. I saw how it had changed my life, and I thought it would be so selfish for me to keep all this to myself after all this research and study and life hacking that I did. And so I decided to jump out, and what was really cool is I started writing my book and coaching at the same time. And so what I was able to do is test these principles in coaching and see what resonated. And so something that resonated at an 8 for me may have resonated at a 3 for other people. And so what I was able to do is see all of these patterns of what resonated more with my clients. Because if I was going to write a book, I was going to write something that would help other people.
Right.
And so as I actually deliberately took 2 years to write my book based on the research that I did as I was coaching. And I made a lot of changes to the book just to really strengthen those principles that resonated most with my clients.
Cool.
Yeah.
So let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back and talk about some lessons learned. We'll be right back on the Kings Radio Network, the Tribe of Kings Information Network, right here on Rebuilding.
My name is Alan Christofferson. You don't know me. Just another book in the library, my father would say, unopened and unread. You have no idea how far I've come or what I've lost. More important, you have no idea what I've found. I'm no one important or famous. No matter. It's better to be loved by one person who knows your soul than millions who don't even know your phone number. I have loved and been loved as deeply as a man can hope for, which makes me a lucky man. It also means that I have suffered. Life has taught me that in order to fly, you must first accept the possibility of falling. I don't know if anyone will ever read what I'm writing, but if you're holding this book, then you've found my story. That makes you my fellow sojourner. If you find something in my journey that will help you with yours, keep it. Some might call this a love story. Those without love will call it a travelogue. To me, it's one man's journey to find hope. There are things that happened to me that you might not believe. There were lessons learned that you might not be ready for. No matter. Accept or dismiss what you will. But let me warn you in advance, which is more than I got, that what you read won't be easy, but it's a story worth telling. It's the story of my walk.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jay Walter, host of Rebuilding, a radio show right here on the Tribe of Kings Information Network. Be sure to tune in weekly to hear more about the Tribe of Kings and to learn how to overcome fear and rebuild your life every day as you become the man you want to be. And welcome back to Rebuilding with Jay Walter. We're here with Randy Scott. And let's talk a little bit more about lessons learned, how you fine-tuned this Zenpowerment as you were working with other people, and how you felt that you could get this to resonate with other people.
Absolutely. So the one thing that showed up over glaringly as a predominant theme that I had woven throughout the book, but I didn't have it as a main concept, was standing in your power and all the places where we give away our power. And what I realized is the only place of power that we have is the present moment. And I love the quote that you opened up with Stephen Covey, where he talked about self-awareness, because self-awareness is that place where you can stand in your power,
Right.
right? So when we learn to separate ourselves from our thoughts and our emotions, then when, for example, we all have triggers, right? Whatever those things are, we all have triggers.
Right.
And if we're in this place of awareness, when a trigger comes up, we can choose to do one of three things. We can attach to it, which like intensifies it. We can act on it, right? Like road rage. Or we can actually just let it go and say, wow, that's a program that's not empowering, and I'll let that one go. But most of the time, if we're not in this place of awareness, we just run that program automatically. And so standing in your power was probably one of the biggest surprises that I found from my clients, as far as being the thing that helped them most, both in their professional lives and their personal lives.
Yeah. So think about this next question for a second here. We'll edit this out. So when you think about how you came up with these ideas, what is the thing that standing in your power has always been powerful to me, has resonated so much in being here in the moment, not worrying about the past, not worrying about the future. Future will kind of take care of itself, because your point, do you feel that's the most important part of what you teach? Is that the most powerful part of what you teach? Is that what I'm understanding from you?
I had someone ask me what the most important thing was, and I nailed it down to three. I couldn't pick one, but I nailed it down to three. I have 7 principles in the book, but the 3 that are my go-tos are coming from a place of love versus fear, being present, which is creating that space of awareness and making it as big as possible. And then the third one, which actually surprised me, is the principle of non-attachment.
Okay.
Right? The Buddha said that non-attachment is the root of all suffering. And 10 years ago, I thought I knew what it was, and I just keep learning more and more and more. And the areas of attachment that have surprised me are things like attachment to expectations, attachment to labels and judgments and things like that. For example, I was raised a white male in the United States in a middle-class family, and I had zero choice over any of that. But as a person, we create this ego around who we are, and then we try to protect that, when really there's no right or wrong. That was just inherited. And so as I've learned about non-attachment, that's been a really cool thing, because, for example, if I set a goal and I'm really focused on the goal and I don't reach that goal, then I suffer, right? But if I enjoy the journey along the way and don't attach to the outcome, then I enjoy that whole process.
Explain to me more about this non-attachment. What process do you go in your mind or in your thoughts to achieve that non-attachment to a goal or a person or an emotion or anything like that?
So it's a great question, Jay. So for me, the first thing is creating this space of awareness, right? So there are 2 great collapses that we go through. And one of these collapses is who we really are compared to who we think we are. And the one thing, you said it in my intro, is it's uncovering who we are not so that we can discover who we really are. Now, if we think from a divine awareness or consciousness, right? So we have these thoughts, but who is the observer of those thoughts? We have these emotions. Who is the observer of these emotions, right? So when we create this space of awareness, I created this concept called the PF Beast, which is an acronym for all the things that are tools, but we collapse them on ourselves. So the P stands for our programming and our past, which are tools, they're not us, our fear and our futures, our body and our brains, our emotions and our ego, our attachments, there's where attachment falls into place, our stories and our our thoughts and our stories. And so as we look at these as tools, it's just like a cell phone. A cell phone isn't good or bad.
Right.
It's just a tool. And if we say, okay, I have these things and they're tools and they're not good or bad, it's just how we choose to apply them.
Right.
And so if I look at all of my disempowering fear or all my disempowering programs, they come from fear.
Mm-hmm.
And if I look at my empowering programs, they come from love. So if I look at these things as tools and I separate from them, I do not attach to them, then I can say, oh, wow, I'm having this emotion of anger. Cool. What does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
And what's cool is all of these things can be used as tools. So anger is usually an emotion that's masking a fear. And so you can go back and work on that. And so that's kind of how you create that separation or that non-attachment.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Now this has always been the first time I heard you talk about this stuff. It really kind of, oh, okay, I can see it's a little hard to practice at first. It really took me a while and more reading and more studying in my mind to understand that, okay, there's some things I fear in life, but once I faced those fears and understood what was causing it or learned how to do the thing I was afraid of or whatever, that fear goes away and you're saying, wow, I am now somebody new. I'm not this person who is afraid of that anymore. And it really is a powerful method to me, a way to grow how you face things that are coming at you every day. And you have triggers every day. Somebody cuts you off on the freeway and you can either wave at them and say, I hope you have a nice day, or you can be mad about it.
Yeah, yeah. And what's really cool is it's a continual practice, like you're saying, Jay. Mm-hmm. It's something that, I get to practice with all the time. And what's fun about it, you talked about having these fears and facing these fears. If you look at the word courage, the Latin root cor comes from heart. Which means you're coming from this place of love. Mm-hmm. So the way that you overcome those fears with your courage is through this place of love.
Right.
And it's a continual practice.
Yeah. So as you've grown through this, as you come up and understand these practices, you feel like you've grown and strengthened areas in your life. How has that changed in what you feel?
Completely. The cool thing about non-attachment is you don't attach to who you were yesterday. Mm-hmm. And two of the most powerful phrases that I can say are, I don't know, mm-hmm. and I may be wrong. And by being able to say that, you're not attaching, right? If I say this is the truth and I attach to it really tight, then my focus becomes really small. And then anything that doesn't align with that, and this is what the brain does, this is confirmation bias. If it doesn't align with that, then the brain just says, oh, no, that's not true.
Pushes it off, yeah.
But if you say, I could be wrong, then any new information that comes up, you can see for yourself if it serves or if it doesn't serve. And so, change is the only constant.
Yeah.
And so I have continually changed over the last, 18 years. The thing that I do is there's a principle that I call emptying the cup. Mm-hmm. Right? If your cup is full, you can't put anything else in it.
Right.
So if you empty the cup, then there's place to put new things in. And what I do keep in the bottom of the cup are principles that have never failed me. Mm. Right? So love, trust, honor, respect, service, gratitude. Those are the principles that I always keep in there. Everything else is up for game.
Oh. Yeah, I read a quote today that says, the scariest person I know is one who believes his own lies. And their cups are so full. They know it all. They know exactly what the answers ought to be because they've told themselves all their lives that that's what they know. They know it all. So
yeah. And our what's cool is our brain is not reliable. Mm. What's interesting is we can have a memory, mm-hmm. and we pull it out and share it with someone, and any variation that we have in that story and we put back in our brain, that story has changed. Right? Mm-hmm. when we take an action, then our brain, which tries to protect us, it works to justify that decision, right? So we'll make a decision, and then our brain wants to find all the reasons why that was the right decision.
Again, the confirmation bias.
Exactly. It's like when you buy a new car, and then all of a sudden you start seeing that car all over the place.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, I must be awesome, because there are a lot of smart people out there.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, our brains, we can actually believe a lie over time because we justify it. And it's like a person is not trying to be malicious, where they actually do believe it over time.
Yeah. Yeah. If you say it often enough, it becomes the truth. Yeah.
Exactly. It's your reality.
Yeah. So if you work with people now, you see people that have these same kind of challenges that you've had in the past, what are some of the things you do? What advice do you give them, or how do you help them overcome these challenges?
Great question. So my role as a mentor and a coach is to help bring out the magnificence in other people. It's help them see who they really are. And that's what I love about my approach, is it's looking at principles. And so I actually take it into 3 different areas. The one which is the most important is the concept of standing in your power and being present. So we practice and we work a lot around that. But another aspect is we all have our baggage, right? We all have these backpacks that have these huge rocks, and it is hard to get around in the present moment with all these rocks.
Yeah.
And so what we do is we help them take out those rocks, right? So, and it's what a lot of this programming is very innocent. So say, for example, if I'm in 2nd grade and they're picking teams and I get picked last, then all of a sudden my brain says, wow, you must not be good enough. Or people don't like you, right?
Yeah.
And your brain, what it does is it anchors and it says, oh, okay. Because the brain doesn't care if it's true or not.
Right.
It just anchors. But then it starts looking for proof that that anchor is true.
Now you're the last one in the lunch line, and the teacher always picks you last.
Yeah. And so there may be 3 instances out of 100 where it may be, oh yeah, you're not good enough, but you're only going to see those 3. And so then, as an adult, you're running that program in your subconscious, and it's throughout your whole life.
Yeah.
Right. So I was adopted. And so one of the programs that I dealt with was abandonment. And that program showed up in my relationships. It showed up all over the place. So when we can help someone understand that they have these programs and get to the root of them, then they can pull those rocks out of their backpack, which make their present moment more powerful.
Yeah.
Then from there, what we do is it's called the life funnel. So it's where do you want to be 15 years from now? So it's really setting out your vision, your dream, right? Mine is to impact millions of people as empowerment. And then you say, where do you want to be 2 to 3 years out? And then after that, it's really focusing on 90-day sprints. I don't look anywhere past 90 days.
Yeah.
But I get really granular on these 90 days, and so I can understand what are those 3 to 5 things a week that I need to do to accomplish those 90-day outcomes.
Right.
And so that's really how I work with my clients. And the interesting thing that I do see with clients, I ask for a few commitments. And one of them is if they make a commitment, to keep a commitment. And if they don't want to make a commitment, that's all right. And I'll see resistance around certain things. Some of them, to me, are very simple. But when I feel resistance, or when they feel resistance, then what that means, resistance is actually a good thing, because it's something that needs to come up. You're just not ready for it yet.
Right.
And so, we just work through whatever their timeline is on some of these things, some of the aspects of resistance.
Yeah. So I know that there are people out there listening right now that this is resonating with. What kind of advice would you give them beyond what we've already maybe talked about, or even if you want, repeat these, standing in your power and non-attachment? What kind of advice would you give people listening to this right now?
The first thing is have fun. I look at life as a game,
Uh-huh.
and it makes all the difference in the world, right? We're so serious. And from a chemical standpoint, right? When we come from a place of love, we have this sense of connection, and we actually put oxytocin into our system, which is great. When we come from this place of fear and stress, we throw cortisol into our system. And over time, and it's excessive amounts in our culture, and over time, that really depletes the immune system, and it's bad for you. So when you can learn to lighten up and enjoy life, man, it's great for your health as well.
Yeah.
The other piece of advice is whenever I'm making a decision, I always ask myself 3 questions. So I ask myself, am I coming from a place of love or fear? Does this feel empowering or disempowering? And then the last one is, does it feel light or heavy? And what I mean by that is, and some people is, does it make me feel open or closed, right? But it's this checking in with your soul to say, how would I feel if I did that? Right?
So am I open to that, or am I closing down to protect myself from that?
Yeah. So for me, I actually feel a lightness if I'm making a decision, and it's kind of like checking in with the universe and saying, okay, is this the way I should go? But if I'm coming from a place of love and it feels empowering and it feels light, I've never gone wrong that way.
Wow, cool. Okay, let's take another quick little break here, and then we'll come back and talk to Randy about how we can get a hold of him and his final thoughts. We'll be right back here on Rebuilding.
Hello, my friends. This is Brad Neufeld, host of the Five Kingdoms radio show right here on the Tribe of Kings Information Network. Be sure and tune in weekly to hear the latest and greatest on the Tribe of Kings, and also to learn all those things that you need to do to be the best that you can be.
Some people are born smart or beautiful. I was born electric. My name is Michael Vane. The Elgin Corporation created me. And now they're trying to destroy me. I've got friends that can shoot lightning, create an EMP, create light. I'm getting more powerful every day. Which brings me to my question. How much electric am I going to get before I am no longer human?
Hello, everyone. My name is Jay Walter, host of Rebuilding, a radio show right here on the Tribe of Kings Information Network. Be sure to tune in weekly to hear more about the Tribe of Kings and to learn how to overcome fear and rebuild your life every day as you become the man you want to be. And welcome back to our final segment here on Rebuilding with Randy Scott, and I really appreciated all the information and knowledge you shared with us today. So, any final recommendations that you want to share with us? Any?
I think it just goes back to the fact that we all have the answers inside of us.
Mm-hmm.
And it's taking the time to be with ourselves to get those answers. Two of my tools, and two of the tools, I will not coach anyone unless they will commit to doing meditation and journaling. And there's a saying that says, nobody knows, you don't know what you think until you hear what you say or read what you wrote. And for me, journaling is such a strong way to really put in my mind what I'm thinking or what I'm believing.
Yeah.
And meditation obviously is that practice of being mindful and being present. And so for me, it's like we have the answers inside of us, and we could read, a bazillion books, and we could go to a million webinars or, seminars or whatever. But the thing is, if we didn't pick up another book today and just started applying what we already know, we would be a bazillion times more powerful.
Yeah.
Right? Somebody, a friend of mine, he posted the concept, we always hear knowledge is power. And it's really, knowledge is not power. It's the application of knowledge that becomes powerful.
Yeah.
Because if I practiced 1/100th of what I know, I'd be 1,000 times more powerful than I am today.
Yeah.
But it's putting it into practice. We all know, get your exercise, eat like this, do that. And if we all put it in practice, we'd all look like supermodels or something. I don't know.
Yeah. The soda pop companies that go out of business, the snack food companies that go out of business.
Totally. But it's putting it into practice. Yeah. So we really we have the answers inside of us, and it's do we choose to make that commitment to ourselves on whatever is important to us?
Yeah. Yeah. That is a big part of it, is making a commitment. I've seen that so much, even just doing this radio show. I've made this commitment to myself that I want to share this kind of information with people about the Tribe of Kings, about rebuilding their kingdoms, and making that connection with deity, and making connection with your family, and learning these things that and it has really affected my life and how I see things. So I appreciate that. That is such good advice. Yeah. So how do we get a hold of Randy Scott? Get your book and
Yeah, you can get my book, Zenpowerment, on Amazon. My website is myzenpowerment.com, or you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn.
Okay.
But yeah, that's the way you can find me.
Okay, fantastic. So I think, my final thoughts here is applying the things I've heard and talked with Randy quite a few times, and he always has some insight that's helped me, that touched me some way. And I think the principles he talks about in his book, in Zenpowerment, and the way you run your life, Randy, is just an inspiration to me, and I really appreciate your friendship and being able to get to know you. And I just recommend to everybody out there listening that you follow some of these things. You get to where you're present in your life, that you call it prayer, you call it meditation, you call it whatever. Get silent. Get in a quiet place and listen to that inner voice. It does know what it's talking about a lot of the time. So my final thoughts are, yes, we need to be present. We need to reflect on our lives, and putting pen to paper. I find the days that I do that, my days are more productive. My thoughts are clearer, and I can see where I want to be, where I want to end up. And so thanks again, Randy, for being here. And
Thank
I'll
you,
just
brother.
close. We thank you for listening to Rebuilding on the Tribe of Kings Information Network. I hope that you've heard something today that helps you in your life and in your path to rebuilding. Remember, a dream written down with a deadline is a goal, and a goal achieved is a dream come true. So until next time, I'm hoping that you're rebuilding your lives and be able to move forward in everything you do. Until next time, I am Jay Walter in the Tribe of Kings Information Network, and I am always rebuilding.